Our class today is entitled Baggage Cleaning. And we do this periodically. And, as I was thinking about this morning, I was sifting through my notes. And I went to one particular section because I knew I would find what was needed there. And it was the Eastern philosophy, Buddhism, Hinduism. And why do we need this baggage cleaning? Well, as I gaze upon the Bhagavad Gita, it tells me that if a person keeps dwelling on sense objects, attachment to them arises. From attachment, desire flares up. And from desire, anger is born. I don't know about you, but myself, when I come out of a situation that seems antagonistic or conflicting to me, I play it over in my head over and over and over again. I've been experiencing these a lot lately, and I've taken to writing my thoughts down once more because it helps get it out of here and get it down here so I can forget about it. It's a way of releasing. And one of the ways that this is described, and I really like this, and this comes again from Buddhism in America. And this particular lecture was called Feeding the Demons, because that's what happens when we get this stuff going round and round in our head and everything. It's a demon. It becomes a demon because we begin to suffer from it. And sometimes when this stuff is playing around in our heads and everything, we're too focused on what happened without observing, which is what meditation is about. Meditation is about observing. But we get caught up on this. We start playing stuff around in our head, looking for possible solutions, possible comments. Oh man, if I'd have said this, I'd have really put them in their place. Well, what we're going to do is this. Describe your demons. Your demons are conditions, people, emotions, anything that steals your power, that demoralizes you, that makes you feel crappy, that makes you feel drained. These are the demons. And we can't exercise all of them at once, because what happens when you address a crowd? Typically, the crowd drowns you out because they don't like what you're saying. So you talk to people one at a time, and as you get the message across, the seed begins to sprout and everything. So we talk to our demon. And before you can work with a demon, you have to know what it is. In order to work with your demon, you may have to be an advocate for your demon. Why do I have to be an advocate for this person that did this wrong to me? Why? What's the cliche? Two sides to the story? Put yourself in their shoes. So you have to advocate for your demon. And this allows you to understand the role of the demon, even if that demon is a disease. Now, before we get started here, I'm going to share a little something with you. I don't like talking about myself because I'm a private person. But when there are certain events that are very useful, very useful. Now, I've told you a lot about when my brain did its thing. I had a lot of interesting experiences. And this particular experience, I was feeling lost, confused. I was floundering. So I came across this. Maybe it was the first time I read this. I don't recall. But I wrote a letter to myself. And in that letter, I described how I was feeling. And to summarize it, I was feeling like a second-class citizen. It's not easy being disabled. You have to learn to do things differently. You have to adapt. And if you cannot adapt, well, I don't even want to go there. So I wrote this letter to myself. I put it down. I came back. I found it a couple days later, and I'm reading it again, and I'm answering the letter. I'm responding to the letter. Well, I'm sorry that this has happened. Perhaps we can do this. I looked at myself as a separate part of myself. Now, I know that makes absolutely no sense. But it's like talking to yourself. And if you have a really good conversation with yourself, yourself is going to tell you just exactly what you're doing wrong and why you're doing it wrong. And you're going to argue. When you argue with yourself, you're on the right track. The idea, though, is to not start jerking yourself around. Believe it or not, I saw that happen. It's an interesting event, but that would detract from our lesson today. But you separate yourself from yourself, only for a moment. Because sometimes you have to get out of your head to understand what's happening. And I happen to write. It just comes naturally. I like to play with words. So that's what I did. Philip, I apologize for this happening to you. Perhaps if we did this, perhaps if we tried this, perhaps if you started writing about your experiences, perhaps if you started writing, perhaps if you got a website and you could write stuff and you could start sharing, because it's difficult for you to get out. You see what I started doing? Do you hear what I started doing? I started offering solutions. Reverend Thomas likes to say win-win solutions. Well, if it's about yourself, there's only one outcome, and that's going to be a win-win. Unless, of course, you're caught up in addiction. And I can't help you with addictions. I don't understand addictions. I have no clue about addictions. My mother told me one time that my brother drinks so he can socialize, so he feels comfortable talking to other people, so he drinks. Well, to me, that's an excuse. However, to him, what's the cliche? Liquid courage? It works for him. Unfortunately, it took him down a path that was best avoided. So I don't understand addiction. So I can't help you there. It's just not something that makes sense to me. So what I want you to do, and I see that those here have pencil and paper at the ready. Do you on do you have pencil? All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a moment and describe your demon. Just pick one. Whether it's an event, whether it's a person, whether it's how you feel, just describe it in excruciating detail, because it's all in the details. Here we go with these cliches again. It's all in the details. So just take a moment to do that. You do this several times. start to have difficulty or something I can't figure out, write letters to myself, or write the thing out in a journal or something like that. Writing works for me. And it's something I encourage a lot. And if you're not a writer, find a stranger. Because the nice thing about strangers is they don't hold anything against you. Mm-hmm. They don't hold anything against you. So you can just let it all out. Therapists are really good too, but we can't always afford a therapist. And this has helped me out several times. Several times. And we did something similar a while back, and I don't think we did this particular approach. It was a different approach, I know that. And in that particular one, I think we visualized and we went to a particular point in time and we watched it and everything.
It was like putting something in a package, making a gift, and giving it back.
There we go. That's right.
That's right. I worked on that.
That's right. Now I remember. Yeah, it was giving back these gifts of pain that we carry around with us, because we can always give them back. Just because we have it doesn't mean it's ours forever. But the interesting thing is that we cannot let go of anything until we begin to understand it. Okay, as soon as Ken returns, we'll begin. So does anybody have any comments or questions so far? So I like that this particular author used the term demons, because in religion, in theology, demons are a prominent part. And they call these demons tempters or lots of other things and such. And they're always stuff that torments us. And typically we're tormented by, well, it's like fear. Fear troubles us because we don't understand. And what we are going to do, now all I can do is help you start this process. So in our meditation, it's just going to be music, but in our meditation, I want you to introduce yourself to your demon. Talk to it. Give it a form. Give it a shape. Give it a name if you want to. It doesn't make a difference. But provide it with something that you can comprehend, that you can understand. We suggest giving it a name because, well, we talk to people, which is normal. And how easy is it to talk to a faceless image? When we're on the phone, what do? We imagine the other person on the other phone talking to you. We imagine what they look like, what they're doing, what they're wearing, because it's natural. So what I want you to do is introduce yourself to your demon. Find out what your demon wants. Because that's the key. I want you to take a moment and write down what you experienced. We're all unique. We don't recognize it very much because we're too busy trying to set ourselves apart instead of we focus on separation instead of interconnectedness. I almost get the impression that's your message there. Interconnectedness. The difference between unique and different. Unique is interconnected. Different is a cognitive exercise. You said so yourself. As I was getting it out, there you go, reading my mind. So this is one of many tools. Does anybody have any last thoughts? How about you, Ken? Any last thoughts?
I never had a last thought, they're always going on.
Yeah, I know. Just start in the middle and go in one direction or the other.
The face of something we can all relate to, I think, is the life of James Dean. Because he was a tortured soul. And he had the mother abandonment issues. He made 3 movies in short life. And all I can remember is Rebel Without a Cause and Virgin. But the best one, I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, it's his life. Almost everything he acted was not acting, was really him. And his tortured life and his abandonment by his mother. So I tried to explain what she cannot explain, but I kind of tried with this, what I call my unity vision I talked about a couple of weeks ago. When I saw the whole thing laid out in front of me, and yet you can't maintain individuality and be one with the universe at the same time, and the paradox disappears, and you're left living that without the paradox. And you just mentioned something about that too. I can, it's gone, but you just said it a few minutes ago. We all have to deal with aging brains. Can't remember.
Reason we can't remember is because we've got too much information. So we got to sift through all that stuff. You know, as we age, we gain wisdom. Well, I won't say gain wisdom, but we gain more information. So that Rolodex that was just this thick is now this thick. And the way the brain operates, okay, let's start with what's similar to this. All right, now I've got all of this now. Let's see what it is. Oh, man, smell. And then the brain suddenly starts saying to itself, we don't need that. We can get rid of that. We can get rid of that. Ah, this is so much better. Ah, we get rid of all of this. That's how it works, according to science. So, but yeah. Uniqueness and different.
I'm done.
He's done. All right. So, Reverend Thomas, any last thoughts?
Well, you reminded me that when I was in high school, we all wore Madras shirts and avoided wearing white socks in order to be different.
White socks with my door.
Yeah.
And a chain, you know.
Any last thoughts, Beth? How about you, Sandy? Any last thoughts?
No.
No? Okay. Any last thoughts, Sharon? No? Well, in that case, I'm going to leave you with something by Juthani. And this is an article entitled Psychiatric Treatment of Hindus. The Hindu belief is that the soul is on a journey towards self-realization. This is done through living Dharma And dharma is the order or the harmony of all things. All lives are interconnected. When disturbance exists, all will feel it until harmony is restored. And now that I've given you something to ponder, I will thank you for allowing me to share today's lesson. All right, how about a little bit of music here for us, huh?